Yo, what is going on, Guardians? J-Man here, and today we're talking about the ultimate Invincible Hunter build. I'm talking about activating an infinite combo of invis, overshield, and damage buffs that puts Lorely Splendor Titans to shame. And this is one of those builds that really does it all. Whether you need survivability, insane ad clear, or even just extra boss DPS, this build was made for you. You can probably already guess that this build is centered around the exotic Gyrfalcon's halberd, and while this chess piece may be a bit controversial in the Crucible, its build crafting potential in PvE feels never ending. After a few weeks of testing the countless amount of synergies Gyrfalcon's has to offer, I think I finally found the missing pieces to the puzzle to put together a flawless, unkillable loadout. It's very easy to get the offensive side of Gyrfalcon's going. Simply emerge from invis to get that crispy damage buff. But where I struggled was activating the defensive trait that Gyrfalcon's has to offer, which is finishing a combatant while invisible gets you a reserve overshield that can be deployed by dodging. And this can be really useful, but in my opinion is a bit of a shortcoming. The reason for this is because I felt that finishing an opponent while invis felt forced. Sometimes the enemy didn't take enough damage to be finishable. Other times, I didn't have any cooldowns to go invis. I felt like I was trying too hard to change my playstyle instead of dominating the game with Gyrfalcon's. So I searched for an alternate way to get overshield and remembered the void weapon perk Repulsor Brace. This perk probably hasn't been as popular as Incandescent Vault Shot and Headstone, but is a game changer when paired with Gyrfalcon's in the right setup. All we need to do is weaken enemies with a void ability and then defeat them using a void weapon with Repulsor Brace to activate an overshield. This is much easier than getting an enemy finishable, going invis, and then actually finishing them. Now, this doesn't mean that we should never finish an enemy while invis when that situation is available, but it does add this simple avenue to maintain a constant overshield without having to think too much about it. So how are we going to weaken enemies to proc Repulsor Brace? First, we have the Fragment Echo of Undermining, which will weaken enemies on grenade hits. I've really been enjoying scatter grenades because they have a short cooldown timer and do some insane damage. Second, we have the Snare Bomb Melee and Trapper's Ambush Aspect combo, which weakens enemies in that surrounding smoke cloud. And third is really the icing on the cake to this build, which is hitting targets with my favorite weapon, Tractor Cannon. Tractor Cannon has the intrinsic exotic trait Repulsor Force, which debuffs and weakens enemies. So if we hit adds with either a grenade, smoke, or tractor cannon shot, and then defeat them with Repulsor Brace, boom, there's our overshield. Now, if you're paying close attention to the video, you probably noticed that when these weakened enemies go down, I'm also activating invis. And this is from the Void Aspect Stylish Executioner. Most of us, myself included, crutch on the Vanishing Step aspect to go invis from dodge. But Stylish really is the play here. Because we have so many ways to weaken targets, we can proc Stylish Execution and invis at any moment in time. And this is perfect because every time we come out of invis, we're also receiving the damage buff from Gyrfalcon's. Now for me, one damage buff just ain't enough, so I crafted a nice little elemental well setup that will help refill our abilities while stacking damage with Gyrfalcon's. We can spawn wells with both Reaping Wellmaker and Grenade Ordnance. When we spawn wells, we'll be creating double thanks to Bountiful Wells. Our class ability will regen faster from Well of Utility, and of course, we'll be getting a 10-second damage buff from Font of Might. This setup really creates a gameplay loop with a lot of freedom. At a high level, all you need to do is use one of your 3 ways to weaken targets and defeat them with Repulsor Brace. That in turn will activate the invis and overshield combo, and when you come out of that invis, you get your Gyrfalcon's damage buff. Now if you happen to get a defeat with a grenade or after using a dodge, you'll spawn 2 elemental wells. And when you pick those up, you'll return ability regen and proc Font of Might, increasing the damage of your void weapons. It's also worth noting that I'm using Gambler's Dodge. This way, if I need to refill my smoke, all I need to do is dodge near an enemy. And then I can weaken the next set of opponents and continue the gameplay loop. If at any point you feel completely screwed with no cooldowns available, simply defeat an ad with Tractor Cannon and boom, you're safe in invis. To round out the build, I also use Echo of Persistence so that my invisibility and overshield have increased duration, an Echo of Obscurity so that I can finish enemies as an additional way to go invis. I did just want to take a second to list out some weapons that can roll with Repulsor Brace that you can slot into your loadouts. For primary weapons, we have Yesteryear, Doom Machelchis, Unforgiven, and Hero's Burden. For energy weapons, there's the Epicurean and Hollow Denial. And for the heavy, there's Taipon and the Other Half. A good chunk of these are craftable, which is great, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's more archetypes on the way in future content. Folks, that will conclude our video today on this Invincible Hunter build. I always love to hear how to improve these loadouts, so if you have thoughts on making this build even stronger, slap it down in the comments below. If you enjoyed the background gameplay, help me out with a like or consider subbing to the channel. I don't think I've ever plugged some of my other socials before, but hey, I have those linked down below if you're also interested. And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the Cosmodrome.